It's about time I started talking about school shootings and gun control. There was a school shooting at my high school while I was still attending. If I did this correctly, the thumbnail of this video is a selfie that I took during the school shooting. I was in a safe space, and it was weird because school the administration has always been very incompetent when it comes to public schooling. And we had known about the shooting minutes, like full minutes before the alarm even sounded. Now, my high school was a lower income area. I've heard it described as ghetto. It was, unfortunately, not the best school. It was overwhelmingly black, so we weren't worried about like the quiet white kid that usually does mass school shootings. But we did have to worry about maybe not as much gangs, because that I never experienced any gang related things, but we were more worried about people with like lower income just generally misbehaving, and there were a lot of fights at the school, which happens at high school, but it was pretty frequent. So the biggest issue of school shootings was likely going to be when two people got in a fight, one of them pulls a gun out. And that was what happened. I was in class, and there was a video online of a few kids fighting, and then one of them pulled a gun out and started shooting. They brought the gun on campus without the school knowing. They managed to shoot a few kids, and it took an alarming amount of time for the school to catch wind of it and even sound the alarm. I say this because gun control is a real problem. I don't think kids should be able to get their hands on a gun. That's absurd. That's an America-only problem. Now, as I said earlier, the issue is overwhelmingly males and overwhelmingly white. That's just the statistics when you look at it online. And as one of the few, like, white kids at the school, I was occasionally, like, jokingly referred to as the quiet kid, because I was a little bit quiet, but I got along well with everyone. So it was never something like you really think about happening. In high school, you always know there's the possibility of a school shooting. You go through the preps and the training. And there had been a few threats. People posting online a picture of their gun, saying something about bringing it on the school grounds the next day. I remember one day specifically, there was a post that went online of someone with a gun saying they were going to bring it to school. So of course, the next day, almost nobody went to class. Everyone skipped, and then the principal got mad at people for skipping that day because of the threat of a shooting. It was absurd. So anyways, the actual school shooting that did occur, we had to turn out all the lights. There's a red light flashing, and I was lucky enough to be in a very secure spot of the school, so I was not worried. I'd already seen the video that had surfaced, so I knew that it was already over. It wasn't like a quiet kid going on a shooting spree, killing as many people as possible in a school. It was two kids were beefing. One of them pulled out a gun and shot the other. I believe they survived, which is good. Otherwise, I wouldn't be like so candidly talking about this. I It was one of those things where only thing I really could do was text some of my friends and just joke, because that is at the end of the day my coping mechanism. I make jokes, I laugh about stuff, that's how I process information. But I knew I'd be safe considering my location. But we had to sit there for a long, long time. And the police eventually arrived on campus. We were escorted out of the classroom. I will be honest, it was terrifying seeing policemen holding rifles, guarding the halls, escorting us out of the classroom, even though the threat was over. It was terrifying. And this is really only something that happens here in America. You can say as much as you want that guns don't kill people. They do. Saying that guns don't kill people is like saying fentanyl doesn't kill people, it's the dosage they choose to use that kills them. That's sort of like, guns are a weapon of mass murder. It's how it works. I believe in sensible gun control. I don't think there's any reasonable reason for a civilian to own an automatic gun. Now, you can say I need a gun for self-defense. I get where you're coming from, but it doesn't really work that way. The answer to a bad guy with a gun being a good guy with a gun just isn't practical. It's been shown time and time again. We still have shootings that occur. We are like the least regulated place when it comes to guns. Cartels buy their guns from Texas. That's absurd. So we're just arming horrible criminals with guns. So I personally believe that there should be a ban on automatic firearms. I also want to bring a little bit of whimsy back to America. Make America whimsical again. I want to see people have their concealed carries be like 6-shooters from like the Wild West, or like flintlock pistols from like the pirates. Make it fun. I don't want to see you have like an AK in your trunk or like a Glock. That's boring. And if it's for self-defense, you don't need something that can kill like 20 people in a fraction of a second. There were a few more shooting scares at my high school. So it was something that we had to think about. I was even shot at. Now, I didn't know it was not a real gun at first. But I would walk home from school, and one day, these kids did like a drive-by. They did it a few times. They would shoot out the window at me with an Orbeez gun, because that was popular at the time. Now, I was scared because I didn't know it was an Orbeez gun. I mean, I was fine, and I know that real guns are louder, but in the heat of the moment, someone drives by, I think they yelled at me and shot something at me. That's terrifying. So I stopped walking home for a little while, because I was terrified of getting shot at. Because one day, it could have been a real gun. That's just the truth of America. If you want to say that getting rid of guns won't work, I would disagree. Look at Australia. Perfect example. They had a federal buyback program. They had a huge gun issue. They were steeped in gun culture, just like America. and then they banned guns. And their gun murder rate has plummeted. Their homicide rate has gone down too. I can see why people want to have guns. Guns are fun. I've shot a gun before. It's fun. I'm not going to lie and say that it's not. It is a cool hobby. So I get wanting to keep that hobby. But I do think that we need to realize the issue at hand. Guns are a tool for mass murder. One of the leading causes of death in children is accidentally firing a gun. They get their hands on like their parents' gun and they accidentally kill themselves. It's a huge issue, and I think that we're being oblivious as Americans when we say the issue to gun violence is more guns. That only makes us less safe. As I said, I personally believe that all guns should be banned, but I can understand wanting to keep the hobby alive. So I do think there should be a compromise in some sense, at least to start with. There should be heavy regulations on who can get an automatic weapon. There's so many tragedies that happen. Sandy Hook being the most prominent example of mass gun death as a result of bad kids that have way too many guns. It was a horrifying tragedy, and it keeps happening. And it's only happening here in America. It's just really sad. And yeah, guns are cool. I like some of the sillier guns. If I ever buy a gun, it's probably going to be a blunderbuss or a revolver, because they look cool. But I'm not ignorant. I know how dangerous those things are. And I think we need to start acknowledging that as Americans. I get wanting to preserve your hobby. It's a fun thing to go to a shooting range and hit targets. I get that. It's sick. That sort of thing's awesome. But the things that you're using have been used to slaughter so many children. And if you don't want to get rid of guns in general in America, I can understand that. But we should at least get rid of the ones that can be used to kill many people in a small period of time. Shouldn't have access to automatic rifles or submachine guns. I think hunting rifles are fine, because people do use guns for hunting. That's a genuine use for guns. You have like a hunting rifle, maybe a sniper made for specific game. That's valid. I get that. If you want to have a like revolver or non-automatic pistol for self-defense, I get that. I do think we should have other forms of self-defense. That's why I have my cane. But I get it. It's cool. Guns are a really big issue here. It's happened at my school, and it's happened at many kids' schools around the world. Or not around the world, around America. It doesn't happen around the world. It only happens here. We need something sensible to control this violence. See ya.